Yo guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'll be doing some work to my hammer ray. And the last time I used it, I broke the bulkhead where the upper link mounts to it, and it's just flopping around back there. So I need to replace this entire plastic piece back here. Quite a bit of work to get to it. So I think while it's apart, I'm also going to be doing some tuning to the differentials. And more importantly, I'll show you guys in a minute. I'll get you in here for a closer look, but I have this E-Viratrue aluminum Bellcrank assembly that I'm really excited to try out. And I also have these E-Viratrue functional bump stops that I'm going to be mounting in the rear. They just replaced these little faux bump stops, and they are actually little hydraulic spring-loaded units that I'm really curious to see how they work. And I think they're going to look really cool. So let me bring you in for a closer look here. Okay, so let's take a closer look at this. Here is the aluminum Bellcrank, and it has a bunch of features that do kind of vary from the stock. It's not just a duplicate of the stock plastic piece, but it does come with this nice aluminum link here, and I'm curious to see how the spring tension is. A lot of times they end up being a little too weak, especially once you modify the vehicle, so curious to see how that's going to work out. But what I broke on my last run out was this lower base plate where the pivot pins sit into, and they're just plastic stock. The upper and lowers are plastic. So I do have the Exotech Bellcrank in this now, but the Exotech unit only replaces the center portions here, the arms, with aluminum. They don't include the upper and lower, so that's something you would have to buy separately. It's nice that this comes with it, and it has like a different design up here that makes it a little more kind of beefy where it mounts to the top plate. And you do also have these additional mounting points for your steering tie rods. So if you wanted to kind of mess around with different steering geometry, it has that option too. So really nice piece here. It's machined really well. I've been impressed with E-Viratrue products since I started using them, and the owner of the company did reach out to me and sent me a couple things just to test out and get back to him and see, you know, if they need any improvement or you know, changes. So I've been kind of going back and forth with him on Messenger about a few things, and he sent me a couple things to try out. So I'm real excited to test these. I do have the E-Viratrue Bellcrank in my Super Rock Ray, and that's worked out great. I did let him know that it needed a bit of a stiffer spring, so I'm curious to see how this one works out. But he also sent me some additional springs. They've revised the Bellcrank a little bit on the Super Rock Ray. So yeah, we'll see how it works out. These bump stops seem really cool. I got to figure out how they mount. They have a couple holes on the back. I'll see once I pull these apart. I'll show you guys that. And yeah, when the axle comes up, it just has an extra little damper at the very end of the travel, just so it doesn't bottom out too harshly. So it's cool. You can, you know, wind that nut down and adjust the height of these so you can get just the right amount of contact to finish out that last bit of travel on your rear suspension. And they feel good. So curious to see how it works. It does come with a servo horn, and looks like it's pretty nice machine. It's all 7075. So yeah, let's give it a try. So this is actually what broke on my front Bellcrank. Just kind of totally, yeah, just like push the bearing out from the plastic holder. So what's nice, let's take a close look at this E-Viratrue. It comes with, instead of plastic pivot mounts, I guess you'd call them, pivot plates. It comes with nice 7075 aluminum. Set of bearings, it does use a bronze sintered bushing, but to me, I feel like that's more durable anyway, because this doesn't rotate at any high speed. So to have bearings in there, I think you're just asking for these to get corroded. If you run in water, wet conditions, moisture is going to get in here, seize up these bearings, and then the bearing ends up spinning in the plastic, which isn't good. So the bronze bushings, I'll show you in a second here. Yeah, so these are the bronze bushings instead of bearings. They have a lot more surface area than the tiny little ball bearings do. Because inside that bearing, and that's not even a rubber seal bearing, that's just like a metal seal bearing, so a metal shielded bearing. So you're not really getting any protection from the elements in there.
And you have the tiniest little metal balls in there, which don't provide a lot of surface area for like side loads. This is a much stronger setup. So we'll see how this holds up in terms of longevity and just, you know, resistance to wear and getting crud and stuff in there. I am gonna put a tiny little drop of oil. I've been using this stuff, Speedex. Oh, that red looks cool on there. But this is like an anti-corrosion and a lubricant, so I'm gonna give that a try and see how that works. So let's get this thing installed and see what else, what other improvements there are on this versus, like I said, I have the Exotech in there, but I did have the stock retaining plates, top and bottom. So that's the downside. You know, you get the Exotech, it's cheaper, but then if you want to replace these, you got to go with a different, I think like Hot Racing. I don't even think Exotech makes those. And I had to like rig up a link here to work and stuff. I had a lot of different stuff going on, experimenting to get this steering to work properly. I always had an issue where I wouldn't get full steering to one side versus the other, and it had to do with the length of this arm. So I'm curious to see if the geometry changes on this is going to correct that problem. But this does come with a nice aluminum link too, and as well as a, like I showed before, a nice servo horn. So let's get this installed and see what the difference is. Okay, so the lower pivot plate that mounts to the chassis doesn't have a direction. You can mount it either way. It comes with nice stainless hardware, so that just pops in there. The top plate you can see has an offset, so the longer section, so where the screw holes are, where the screw holes are should be facing rear, and you'll have this plate kind of extending toward the front. And you can kind of put this in loosely and then just let that slide around, take your Bellcrank, pop it in there, get the plate to sit down on top of the pins, and then you're set with this. Another cool feature I like about this is how he designed these little retainers up here, like these kind of shouldered washers, spacers that fit in here. And I am using some blue Loctite on all of the hardware here, of course, because it is going into aluminum. So let's finish mounting this up and check it out. So I noticed one discrepancy here. This is a 23 tooth horn, which is fine if you're running the stock Spectrum servo. I'm gonna reach out to the manufacturer and suggest that, I don't know, I'd have to look up this part and see if they specify that it comes with a 23 tooth or if you can get a 25 tooth. I'd recommend, I'm gonna see if he can just either sell two separate kits, one with a 23, one with a 25, or just include both of them. It would be nice to have both. So for anyone who wants to upgrade their servo, the stock Spectrum ones are pretty lame. And you know, that's more of an issue with Spectrum, you know, having a 23 tooth to begin with. I never really understood why they have to be different. I believe the new Spectrum servos are now 25 tooth, which is pretty much the standard. So just be aware of that. So I just used my old servo horn here. It is a short servo horn, so just be aware of that. If you are running an aftermarket servo, you're looking at, oh man, it's probably the lower hole is about 17 millimeters, and the upper one is maybe 13. So it's kind of an odd size, like a 15 should work. The longer the horn is, the more steering throw you're gonna get side to side. Now, this seems to have kind of corrected the problem that I had initially, which is where, let me zoom out here a little bit, which is where if you are turning this horn is pushing the link that direction due to the length of the horn, especially in the stock position, it couldn't push the link far enough that direction, and you would always have limited steering travel in one direction as opposed to the other. You know, in the other direction, you know, you can see you still have a decent amount of throw here, and it's actually physically limited by how far it can turn there. So the other direction, it seems like we should be fine because it is pretty much right there. So with the Exotech, I actually had to use a, where is it here? I had to make a slightly longer link here, just using some rod ends and some threaded rod just to get more throw. So it would push, when it's pushing, it would push further in one direction. So that was always my biggest complaint with this thing, and why it never really steered right, is you wouldn't get full side-to-side steering on both sides. So this seems like it's set up pretty well, so let's give it a shot. But yeah, just be aware of that horn. Don't forget to pull these screws out and use some Loctite on them. They were just kind of hand tight in there, so definitely get some Loctite. Anything that's going into metal on this, the top plates, all these three, the lower one from the bottom, these two, and then eventually these all get some thread lock on them, and as well as anything else that you're reassembling on the chassis, like these. Okay, so got the steering all situated here. I ended up using the inner holes on these adjustments here, and I have adjustable turnbuckles here, so I can always kind of correct my toe. So I'm not sure which one you guys are going to end up using in terms of these mounts. If you're using the non-adjustable links, I highly recommend going to adjustable links on here. It really solved a lot of issues. I can run this thing a little bit toe out. Also, the adjustable top links here for the camber. You can really get this steering dialed in much better if you have fully adjustable. These are actually off of a Losi SC10 short course truck, the 3.0 SCTE, and they fit on pretty nicely. I just used some different rod ends here, but you can pretty much just measure your standard lengths and find something that fits. What I ended up doing for the servo horn, because I am running this Flash Hobby 45 kg, which is a very nice servo, by the way. It's nice speed, good power. Everything works out well. I just used one of these. This is like the most common servo horn you can find on Amazon or eBay. Comes with a lot of servos, and I just cut it off. So I'm using this top mounting hole here, and I just cut it off right below that and kind of filed it down a little bit. You'll see, let's see if I can get you a better angle here. Yeah, you'll see I just kind of like smooth the edge out, but there's plenty of room under there. And it worked out really nice. Now, you'll see I'm getting full, kind of hard to see here, but you see how I'm getting full lock-to-lock steering on both sides, and my endpoints with my FlySky are adjusted to about 75% left, 72, 73% right. So it's pretty much spot on, man. This really does correct the geometry on this. And hard to notice, but you'll see how vertical this Bellcrank, the pivots on this Bellcrank mount pretty much vertical, exactly in line with these upright posts here, where the stock one is actually laid back a little bit. So I think this does a lot to really correct a lot of the funky steering geometry with the stock setup on here. So I'm really curious to drive it like this and see. But as of right now, I am extremely happy with this setup. It works really well. Yes, I do wish he included a 25 tooth servo horn. That would have been cool, but I haven't had any issue with these. I have a bunch of these. Anytime I buy a servo, it comes with extras, so I don't mind using this. I've never had an issue. They're strong enough for this application. And yeah, we'll see. So far, the saver spring seems to be a pretty good tension. So we'll run it and give it a shot, but really happy with this so far. So overall impressions of the E-Viratrue Bellcrank, I love it. This thing is great. It steers so well, so much better than when I had the Exotech in there. So whatever changes he made, mounting it more vertically and just correcting some geometry, really, really works out nicely. The spring tension is really good on that saver, and I have zero complaints. This thing it's better than it's has ever been. And I have a lot more running video. I wanted to keep this kind of short, so I'm gonna post it up soon, and I will be talking more about this E-Viratrue Bellcrank, and also the bump stops that I installed and some other tuning that I did. I have completely different diff setups on this now than in previous videos, and I'm way happier with it. So stay tuned if you want to know more about that and you want to see more of the running video here. I found these cool new trails where I mountain bike, and just a lot of cool features on it to run this truck, and I had a blast with this thing today. It has never been better, and a big part of that is due to having steering that actually works really well. And it's huge. You know, driving through rocks like this, if your steering's not good,
you know, you're not going to have any control. So really happy with it. Highly recommend it. And yeah, stay tuned. I'll have some more videos very shortly, and I'll kind of go over more of what I did with this rig. So that's it, guys. Catch you in the next video. Later.